that on one of our worst days as a country, we saw some of the best that this country has to offer. But when I look back now, I'm struck at we tended to think everything had changed. What had really changed was we finally could no longer hide from the fact that radical Islamic terrorists were at war with the United States. But it is absolutely 100% wrong to say that September 11th, 2001 was the opening salvo in the Islamist attacks and jihad against the West. You can go back just from the United States. You can go back to 1979 and the Islamic Revolution in Iran, where they held our hostages for over 440 days. That was a terrorist attack. You can look at the Marines that were murdered, over 230 U.S. Marines in 1983 at the Beirut bombings at the Marine Corps barracks in Beirut by Hezbollah and by Iranian-backed proxies. And of course, you look at the 90s, and it was almost a decade in which our collective head was in the sand. The World Trade Center itself had been attacked in 1993. The Khobar Towers were attacked in 1996. Our embassies in Tanzania and Kenya were attacked in 1998. And of course, as a Navy guy, in 2000, a devastating attack against the USS Cole. And so they had been at war with us for an awful long time. And I don't really draw much of a distinction. Operationally, yes, you have to draw distinctions between Al-Qaeda, between now ISIS, and between the Islamic Republic of Iran. But in terms of ideology, vis-a-vis us, vis-a-vis the state of Israel, vis-a-vis many of our Western European allies, there really is no difference in how any of these groups perceive us. They have a revolutionary, totalitarian ideology that says if you don't submit to their totalitarian worldview, then it's their duty to wage war against you. And that means if you're a Christian, if you're a Jew, women are subjugated, you can go on and on the list. That is what they're fighting for, and that runs totally contrary to everything this country stands for. I think as 15 years have passed, one of the most searing images in my mind, and when this happened, I was a 22-year-old kid, I wasn't even in the military yet, I never left the United States to travel, or at least certainly not left North America. Very, very provincial in my experiences. But one of the first, or one of the lasting images from that day was to see how some people around the world reacted to the September 11th attacks. And I think the biggest contrast I saw were the Israelis who were praying for the United States, but then to see the Palestinian Arabs who were celebrating and cheering the fall of the Twin Towers. And again, I was not wise in world affairs. I had never traveled over that part of the world. But that just showed me something very basic about the decency of one side of this Israeli-Arab conflict, and then the other side where they were cheering mass murder of people who they didn't know. They had no idea what those people's views were, but yet it was an attack on America, and so that was reason for them to take to the streets. And so that is something that informs me now to this day in terms of how you deal with terrorism. And the fact of the matter is, as Sarah mentioned, we have, we want to seek justice. We say never again. We say we're going to avenge people, our citizens, when they're killed by terrorists. And sometimes we do a good job. I would say that if you look where we are now versus where we were then, yes, we were not as prepared to combat a terrorist attack then as we are now because we know the threats and appreciate it better. But if you look now, there are way more Islamic jihadists operating under a wider berth of territory today than there were at 9/11. It's not even close. You had different pockets in Afghanistan. Obviously, you had terrorists operating in the Gaza Strip and in the West Bank, Hezbollah. There were terrorist groups in 2001, don't get me wrong. But the rise of ISIS, the rise of groups in Syria like Jabhat al-Nusra, the rise of groups in the African continent of sub-Saharan Africa and Northern Africa, these guys are on the march. And they've been able to take advantage of feckless policies coming out of this administration coming out of, quite frankly, some of our European allies, where they're allowing terrorists, I think, to gain the offensive. And so in that sense, that should be disappointing to all of us that we're not doing a better job. And of course, as Senator Cruz mentioned, not only to make a deal with the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, but to do a deal that empowers them more than they've ever been empowered since the revolution in 1979. It's not only bad policy for this country, to me, it strikes right at the heart of all those Americans who were killed by Iranian forces in Iraq over many years, 2005, 2006, 2007. Of course, we mentioned the Marines in 83, different attacks that Iran's been involved with in Argentina when they attacked the Jewish center there. So to do that for a country that has not changed, leadership that has not changed, a leadership that's dedicated to spreading terrorism around the world, it's one of the worst policies that I think our government has ever enacted. And we will pay the price for this. Why do you think the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps, why do you think they wanted it in cash? So they can be able to disperse it. It will go to terrorist groups. It will go to groups who don't have our interests at heart. So that's just the reality of the situation. So that's where we are in terms of Iran is stronger than ever. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, groups in Africa, and of course now with modern communications you have homegrown terrorists. Some of these people have no operational relationship with groups like ISIS, but they can be inspired to act to wage jihad against Americans here in our own homeland, and that includes people who are American citizens. And so we need to change course if we really want to make sure we're honoring the sacrifices of those on 9/11. One of the things that I think we've had shortfall with is when we have Americans who are traveling abroad, we have resolved that we were going to pursue those terrorists if they're murdering Americans. And we see on the board here all the Americans who've been killed by Palestinian terrorists since 1993. None of them have been prosecuted by American courts, even though we do have jurisdiction to do it. We pass laws to try to facilitate it. And it's true, some of them may be prosecuted in Israeli courts, but if they're released a couple years later, that's not doing justice to the American victims of this Palestinian terrorism. And so what we're looking to do to build off the momentum that we've already been able to do is to try to make sure that this Overseas Victims of Terrorism Office in the Department of Justice actually has some teeth and can pursue these cases, because what happens is they say they don't have enough authority or they don't have any authority to initiate cases, and so they'll pawn you off to one part of the Justice Department and back, and it's kind of a ping pong. And we need to end that, and we need to make sure that there is accountability and that the tools are there to be able to bring some of these people to justice. Because at the end of the day, I'm not making light of any other way to die, but I could not imagine having a loved one's life cut short by an Islamic terrorist. It would leave me bitter until no end, and I just do not want to see that happening to our people. And when it does happen, I think we owe it to them to do everything in our power to make sure that we're trying to bring those perpetrators to justice. So I'm happy to be helping to lead that effort. Obviously, I appreciate the support of groups like EMET for standing by us and really pushing hard to make sure that we see the change that we need. But in closing, I would just say the spirit that we saw on September 11th, the unity that we saw on September 11th, I think we need to get some of that back. And part of that, I think, is to agree on the facts and agree on the truth, and not be blinded by political correctness or other agendas, and just take the enemy as we find them and be able to take action accordingly. I think if we do that, I think when we lay the facts out for the American people, I think overwhelmingly they understand the threat and they understand what we need to do to keep the American people safe. So thank you guys for having me. God bless everyone. God bless the members.